We are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first live episode of Demandism. I'm Alice De Courcy, first of all, CMO at Cognism, and I'm really excited to host this alongside Liam, who's our Global Head of Demand Gen, and Fran, who heads up our Mid-Market Plus, Mid-Market Enterprise segment on the demand generation side as well. Just a quick intro into what we're kind of trying to do with these sessions. So if you followed Cognism or if you followed any of us on LinkedIn, you'll see us talking a lot about our journey from a sort of traditional lead generation model into a demand generation model and the huge impact that's had for us and on the business as well. And we want to just really deep dive that, like has that involved, what are the lessons that we've learned, how do you actually go about implementing that in your business? We've made mistakes along the way. Hopefully we can help you not make those mistakes as well, and just generally make it like a really tactical, interactive session for us to answer your questions, but also hopefully provide value in terms of our real world experience and case study. I'll hand over to Liam and Fran to just give them a quick intro into themselves and kind of their role in this whole journey as well.
Shall I go ahead?
You go.
I'm Liam. I head up the demand gen team here. So I suppose my role in like the journey and how it kicked off is we actually like approached it, I suppose, segment by segment at the beginning and how we rolled it out. We went ahead with our UK small medium business like SMB segment first, and so we went through a period of where before we'd been really following the lead gen playbook, and then we went into fully trying to move it to demand gen. So it was really going from like everything to like a complete switch. So that's something we did last year, and like probably started around April, did like the full switch over in September. So I was completely learning as I went along, and started there, and then we've sort of moved on to everything else and putting it across the Cognism's like spectrum of segments. So that's sort of an introduction from me.
Cool. I'll take it from here. I'm Fran. So as Alice said, I head up the mid-market enterprise offering. We'll head up the marketing for that. So we've been doing this for about 6-7 months now. So started in July, and the problems that we faced were pretty much what everyone faces when entering a new business segment. The main one being, how do we get leads to sales as quickly as possible? How do we build pipeline? How long is it going to take to close a deal? Which were the questions that senior leadership were asking. I think we've learned a lot of things along the way, especially as like Liam talks about, and we've been talking about a lot on LinkedIn about this shift from lead gen and MQLs to like this demand gen. And I think Liam, from an SMB perspective, like we have done that quite comfortably because we could generate these leads with our eyes closed, basically. And we got to a point where we were like, how can we move on? How can we generate leads that like have intent behind them? So I think we managed to progress quite quickly on that side. But the interesting thing about the mid-market enterprise side was that it's a brand new business segment, and we had no awareness. We had no awareness within our target accounts. So the big challenge has been like, where do we start and how do we grow, and then what changes like do we make along the way? So hopefully we can unpick some of those in this, and I think we hoping that you guys will ask some questions along the way as well, so we can always address those too. Let's go.
So this is the dream team behind what Cognism does, alongside all of their team as well. So I'm going to kick it off. Agenda point 1, moving from gated to ungated. So first of all, I think, Ashley, if you could launch that poll for us. I just want to get a feel for kind of who we're talking to in terms of where you guys are sitting with this. Obviously, there's no like right or wrong answer. We've been at every point in this poll at one stage or another. And I guess you're attending today because you kind of want to learn how to make the move as well. I just want to get a sort of gauge on, who we're talking to and where you guys are at with it all. 100% are a mixture of both gated and ungated. I'm just going to, give it a little bit longer, actually. Interesting, we've got some everything gated.
That was us not so long ago.
Not so long ago, indeed. Everything ungated. Nice.
Yeah, we like that. I wonder what we would have said a year ago. I think we would have been like, well, we were championing gating, weren't we? Like getting everything.
Everything gated.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Oh no, I'll give it a little longer.
Oh, I like these polls.
Cool. Okay. Let's crack on with the so we got winners, a mixture of both, and then everything ungated second, and everything gated is like the least of all, which is great to see. So obviously got lots of modern marketers on this. Cool. So how do you make the move? And obviously some of you have done this already because you're fully ungated, and others of you are a mixture of the both and some completely gated. So I just wanted to talk through like how we approach this at Cognism and how you could go about looking at it at your organization. The first thing that you want to be doing is making sure that you split your funnel so that you can measure your conversion rates at every stage of the funnel through gated content. So by that, MQLs, sort of the MQL hamster wheel type generated demand, versus those people who are coming direct to you to request pricing, to request a demo, what I would call like direct intent demand. So by splitting that funnel, you'll understand very clearly the difference in conversion rates. So that's like step one. You don't need to change anything at this point. You just want to be measuring it and looking at it and understanding the implications for budget split and the number of MQLs you need, or the number of leads you'll need in each of those buckets based on the conversion difference. And obviously it'll be a stark contrast. You'll see on the direct intent demand, you need way fewer, but they're obviously much harder to get. And then on the gated side, much easier to generate, but you need many, many more of them in order to generate the revenue. And ultimately, that's what we all care about, is the revenue. And so once you've done this split, you can then go further. Like our first step was to say, okay, we know we want to move into an ungated model, but we still have a sales team who are relying on leads, like MQLs, content leads, to book meetings, which they get comped on and paid on. So it's not possible for us to just suddenly like switch off the tap. So we would just start siphoning off money from the most ineffective campaigns, the ones that are generating leads at the highest cost per lead. So we can generate like mid-market plus enterprise content leads at a rate of like $10. I think we even got it down to $7, didn't we, Fran, in some campaigns?
Yeah, James did, yeah. That's great.
Exactly. So when you actually just say, right, well, we're only going to invest in those campaigns where we're generating leads at like under $20, maybe that's your benchmark. It suddenly means that you can generate more for less. And then you take the money that you've saved on the underperforming campaigns, and you can say, I'm actually just going to put this money into this demand generation activity where I'm going to be ungating content. I'm going to be creating paid social campaigns just to drive more demand. And you'll be able to start seeing and measuring if you can see a correlated effect, an increase in direct demos with that increased spend. And we soon saw that. Like, it didn't take very long, literally a matter of months, for us to start seeing the correlation impact. And suddenly we realized that ultimately the revenue bridge that we had to build, we had to like close between what we were generating on the content side, which would ultimately be 4 or 5 deals a month, versus what we could generate on the direct intent demand side when we put that money into our demand generation campaigns, was actually so easy to bridge. And it just made complete sense. So we just gradually made the switch. Like, we didn't just one day stop all gated campaigns and start all demand generation activities. We literally took it from most successful MQLs campaigns continue to run, take the money, repurpose, see the correlation, and then gradually move the money into the demand generation piece as we saw it working. But I should caveat this by saying that's what we did on the SMB side of the business. On the mid-market enterprise plus side, we still actually see content playing an important role. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to bring Liam on to talk about how we actually structured the ungating of all of the content on the SMB side, because it's all very well saying we ungated stuff, but like, how do you do that, and how do you do it effectively, and how, like, what steps did we take? And then I'll bring Fran on to talk about how we run it differently on the mid-market plus side of the business, and and like why we're actually seeing that content does have a role to play, and that's why we actually have a mix of gated and ungated. So yeah, Liam, if you want to talk about structuring how we actually ungated things.
Yeah, sure. So one thing that like I think is like important to recognize, and I suppose I didn't really until you start doing it, is if you can't just take what your original activity was and just ungate it en masse, because it doesn't engage the audience that you need it in the way that you need it to like start creating actual demand and move people into being able to like learn about Cognism, like in our case, learn about Cognism, learn about the things that we're talking about, and get them into a position where they feel like they want to submit a demo. You need to start looking at like creating and your content in different formats and creating it in different ways to optimize it for the feed. But to figure out which content then you go to ungate and which ones you push forward is a challenge in itself as well. And if you've done, hopefully, like even in your gated content, you've done a lot of research into like what your ICP wants to hear about and all of those sorts of things. So if you've done that bit and you've done all that hard work first, and you're not just creating ebooks off the bat, then you can actually use your findings from lead gen to really influence then what you're going to do for your ungated model, because you're going to have clear, and what we had was clear topics, clear white papers and ebooks and gated assets that did, and based on webinars as well, that just did like so much better than other topics, things that like our audience can get enough of and really liked. And I think as soon as you actually ungate things, and you're not trying to get leads, it actually liberates you, because no longer are you like worried about, oh, you know, whether this piece of content is like close enough to what an SDR is capable of talking about, or moving it, or close enough in relevance to like your product. You're just looking to sort of like engage and delight your audience. So we did that. We realized that we like in our 2 segments, for example, for sales leaders who we're targeting, that cold calling just went down a storm across all segments that we promote across. And I think Fran will probably touch on that and like a learning with that one as well. But then, like I said, you can't just push your cold calling content like out. We had like a few really popular ebooks, but if we just ungated those and pushed those out through paid channels on social, we would I don't think we'd have the impact that we'd want to in feed and start to create enough of a conversation. So we had to look at then breaking that out and like creating videos about some of that content as well to make it more engaging. But then what we had was loads of webinars that like with long videos talking about this sort of thing, but not actually breaking it out into any snippets and using that, because that wasn't, you know, promoting an ungated video snippet before wasn't in the playbook. But now we had all this webinar content we could sort of like break up and start pushing out around that topic again. Then we had all these well-written articles and ebooks again that we can now break out into like nice looking like carousels and things. And, you know, before, like we try and use carousels to promote gated content, and it wouldn't really work because people are playing with the carousel and are not clicking through to download the lead, like the content that you want. But now we want them to play with the carousel, look around, comment, like, and engage on it to begin to create that demand and that sort of like sense of like community around the top around the content. So once we found some of these topics, we knew that was working. We started to create content towards them. We're like been building out and structuring different campaigns on each of these things, trying to create like a consistent message about what we're talking about. So then we cycled through that. So now we're like within our sales segment, we have like a cold calling campaign, and we're like constantly updating it with loads of different content that we're working on in a ton of different formats. And then we're working through, and then we found out like our ICP like talking about cadences as well. So we're moving through that, and then we've like created some additional messaging about outbound that we've seen popularity in. So we're moving and we're creating campaigns around that, structuring it with like different ads along the way. On LinkedIn, we like split these all out just because of how it works. So you've got video campaigns, we've got static single image ad campaigns, and we've got carousel campaigns. And on Facebook, we group these all together to allow Facebook's algorithm to do the work. Another thing that I think changes about it is on all of the platforms before, you're really looking for conversions before, and that's what you're optimizing for. But now you're going to be, we changed it, so we're not looking at like that optimizing for conversion, optimizing for a lead, optimizing for a website view, visit. We're now optimizing entirely for it to be looked at in feed, for video and carousels particularly. So that means that you switch all of your campaigns up to like be serving maximum impressions, because you just want eyes on at any moment, rather than it being about getting people to like complete a certain goal. We just want them to view and consume the content. And then on this as well, we have, that's like talks about all of our top of funnel content, but we also have these, what we would call our BOFU campaigns, which is like product focused messaging, teaching people a bit more about Cognism, and then also like ungated tours and things like this that like give people like a glimpse into what Cognism's about, and they can learn about it. And these bottom of funnel ads are served to our entire ICP again. Amongst those,
I think that's a really important point. Like, we made a mistake when we started this by trying to, the classic marketing mistake, and say, okay, we've got top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and like we basically tried to put people in stages of the funnel, but that's not how it works. Like, the buying cycle is just like doesn't work that way. And so what we actually found out is you get much more value from giving everything to everyone all the time. So that's like a really important point. And then I know we've got questions about how to measure all of this. So just for Harriet and Frederick, we're going to come to that at the towards the bottom of the session. We're actually going to have a really interactive share screen. We're going to show you how we're doing all of that. So hold on tight. And then Liam.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and like as I said, like we split it all out into these funnels, and then we realized that you can't, if we're doing that, then they're actually limiting the amount of people who see our bottom of funnel content. So we're limiting the amount of people who actually learn about Cognism, which is, we can't say that just because they viewed an ad that they're now ready to learn about Cognism. We don't know where anyone could be in the buying stage at that point. They could have seen something else. They could have just seen a competitor's ad, and now they need to see our bottom of funnel content. So that's why we did it. And when you actually see it, people have been asked before, like, oh, then how did the results see? Well, actually, we see like good engagement on all of these ads, just as much as top of funnel. People are interested, they're liking, they're like commenting on it. It's not that you can ever predict at any one stage if someone's ready for that bottom of funnel content.
I'm gonna have to move you on. To time.
That's it. I'm basically wrapping up. So
basically, we were joking before we came on that we've created a monster in Liam, and he's now.
It's happened.
We'll let Fran come in.
Yeah.
I'll start you there, Liam. Sorry. No, that's super interesting. So I guess from a mid-market perspective, it's slightly different. So we'd been building, we were well known in the SMB space. So the SMB space knew who Cognism were. We've got like a great client list. So for mid-market, and when I started working on that, I was like, oh, okay, so SMB are now moving towards this ungated model. And I was like, do we do that? Do we not? It was difficult because we don't have any awareness with mid-market enterprise companies. So it's all well and good saying, okay, well, what you need to do is ungate everything and you're going to get loads of inbounds. But if no one really knows who you are, then inbounds become pretty slow in the first instance, because the thing about this awareness piece is that it's amazing to do it, but it does take a little bit of time to gain that momentum. So you've got to like set your campaigns up and define your audiences and let those run. And time really wasn't on my side in terms of like how quickly we needed these results. So I had like a hungry sales team who had no pipeline, and they were looking to us to generate leads. So for me, it was more like, okay, well, how, my first sort of maybe this was a bit of a mistake, but my first thing was playing it super safe. Maybe looking back, I might have taken a few more risks, but I played it really safe and ran the lead gen campaigns. I ran the ebooks. I did it all. And we got loads of leads through the funnel. And actually, results-wise, it wasn't bad. So these content leads that we get from ebooks, sort of, they're contributing to like 27% of our revenue for mid-market plus. However, caveat to that, the lead time is longer. They convert at a much slower rate down the funnel than inbounds do. So I knew, like, looking at the results, that I've got sort of a small percentage coming from content, but then the rest is coming from like paid inbound demo requests, and they're converting at a much faster rate and they're much better quality. So naturally, I'm going to want more of those, but I still want to keep the leads ticking over to keep sales happy. So it was all like, I don't know, sort of like a fine balance, like, of how we were going to make this happen. So I'd probably say, or I will say, that it was probably like a 60-40 split between like lead gen and awareness 6 months ago, like when I started. I did play it safe. One thing though, like big mistake, was I went as far as gating like bottom of funnel content, and that is one thing that I would advise you not to do. Like, bottom of funnel is your advertising your product, your service, how amazing, what amazing results you have, your customer case studies, your snippets of like your best product releases. So it's beyond me actually now why we would gate something like that and ask for you to put your email address in when actually we want everybody to see it. So do not gate both your content would be my number one takeaway and biggest regret. And then going forward, we have, and as Alice said, I won't go on about this too much because we are actually going to show you exactly like how we've done it, how we measure it, how we track it. But I must say now, like 6 months on, we are slowly taking that content budget and moving it more towards what we call awareness, which is this demand gen piece, which are campaigns that drive inbound demo requests as opposed to these content leads. So we're turning the tap off, but just like probably a lot slower than SMB did. And I would say that was purely two things. Like, one, we had no awareness in that particular space, and two, like, sales still had to have someone to call. Like, they had no historical pipeline they could rely on, or no like closed lost ops we could go back to. So yeah, they're the two main reasons really, and we're making that shift, but probably at a much slower rate than SMB. But yeah, I think it's been a good decision, definitely.
Amazing, thanks, Fran. Cool. So now, really tactical, we're going to talk about how we structure and set up the paid campaigns. So I had got pulled, I think that one's actually gone live, which is it's literally a 50-50 split. Stages of your funnel. So we've got 50% of you do and 50% of you don't. Like, no, it's changing. So more of you do than don't, which is great. I would say, like, if you don't, there's nothing to lose by doing so. So just literally start doing it, start of the next new month. And even if you're not going to action that data right away, having the data is very knowledge, like, it gives you knowledge, and it gives you a better understanding of what to do next and how quickly to make a transition if you do start to. Okay, so structuring paid campaigns, top level. So let's talk about LinkedIn first of all. So in our LinkedIn advertising instance, we have got campaigns under what we call awareness. So this is all of our paid activity that we're running, which is ungated. It's value-adding content and resources. It's a complete mixture of top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, as we touched on earlier. It's everything to everyone in our ICP. And it's all served up to the same audiences. We aren't creating any artificial funnels. The only time that we would actually slightly change up the type of content, like we'll narrow down our audience, is if we're actually building a retargeting campaign, and we're experimenting heavily on the different types of retargeting campaigns on LinkedIn that you can do. So you can do like video views, you can do, there's just like 1,000,001 ways to slice it with ICP, etc. And we'll go into a little bit more on, like, we're going to share the paid sheet, aren't we, Liam, where we can actually show you some of the ways in which we are breaking that up, and I'm sure Liam can touch on it in a bit as well. And then we have content topic campaigns. That's what Liam was talking about. So this is in the awareness. So this is still in our awareness section. So how we're splitting up that awareness section is by content topic. So we've got that cold calling sales content topic. And on the marketing side, we're talking all about this whole lead generation to demand generation piece. And then we've got our bottom of funnel campaigns. So these are testimonials, case studies, product videos. And then finally, we've just started these. We call them life cycle campaigns. So this is us trying to make sure that, you know, our job isn't done if someone just requests a demonstration of our product. There's absolutely no reason and harm for us to continue to show up in their feed every day, delivering new value. I think new value is like the key piece there, and encouraging them, along their journey. So that's quite an interesting one for us, and we're still kind of building out what that looks like. And then secondly, on LinkedIn, we'll have our performance, what we call performance campaigns running. Now how we define the difference between an awareness campaign and performance campaign. Awareness would be ungated, there's no direct response. A performance campaign is anything which is trying to deliver a direct response initiative to the campaign. I think, Liam, I was going to bring you in at this point to talk about some of our most successful direct response initiatives that we've got on that performance side, because I think that will be interesting to everyone, because we've obviously talked about, you know, letting people come to you, but there is also a lot of activity, and we've actually really tried to double down on this in recent months, that you can be doing on the direct response performance side as well, which will help supplement those leads as well.
Yeah. We've been testing a lot more, I suppose, on like LinkedIn, and we'll move on to Facebook about, you know, what sort of like activities we can do there to capture demand. And I'll share like later in when we're measuring actually like the testing sort of framework we just sort of build out and how we're running it.
Should I sharing it now? Because maybe if we're talking to this, it might be actually useful if we share it.
Let's get that.
I mean, really open to feedback as well, everyone who's on the call. Like, we tried to keep this like not just death by PowerPoint and us trying to talk through things, but I realize there's some like more complex stuff in here that maybe it would have been helpful to have slides on. But we'll get this up so that when we keep referring to what we're going to share, but we might actually just share it now.
Share it now. If we have, I guess if we have a requirement for it, we could follow up afterwards as well with like more of a structure and how we actually do it.
It's not letting me share my screen at the moment.
Do you want to send it to me?
Yeah, if I send it to you, and then just let me know if it will. Hopefully, it will it's come out with like a little pop up. I'll send it to you, Fran.
Yeah, sure.
Probably will send you the other presentation for later.
Okay, no worries. Let me see if I can get it. Where did you send it, on Slack?
Yeah.
Cool. Just while we're doing that, like a couple of cool things that we're testing on the paid direct response stuff right now is basically running a video ad in feed, which is our head of outbound sales. He's talking about basically trying to he basically objection handles why you wouldn't want to request a demo of Cognism. So like the whole idea of it not being a sales pitch, there's actually an opportunity to learn to actually, because what we sell is B2B contact data. So for us actually just to run live searches, help you dig into your ICP, if anything, just come out of it deeper understanding about your customers or your prospects. That's like, we're in really early days of testing, but like these are the types of like more innovative things you can just try running on this direct response piece. And then we've got like ungated product tours, which we're running on the performance direct response as well. Again, all really early days experiments. So as these shows go on, we'll be able to give you more insight into how those are doing. Are you good to go now, Fran?
I might be good. I need access to the sheet. I'm denied access.
Yeah, doing well.
Great start.
One of our sort of missions is to be more human, and things happen, you know. So I think it's fine.
Here we go. I'm sending you a new link.
Here we go. I got it right. Okay. Wish me luck. Share screen window. Here's my Slack. Ooh, here we go. Demandism paid testing framework.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Can you see?
We are getting it up now.
Now I can. All right.
Ooh, there you go.
So to go through it a bit, one thing you start doing when you ungate everything and you're driving people to your website or watch videos, you create a load of different retargeting audiences that you can then use. So that's basically what we wanted to like close in on and to work on. So we started by like building out we've done like the website general retargeting there, and then we're looking at like the different formats that then we could like push people to. So we're like, we've got static, whether like we could use a video to promote and push people to a demo as well. Like traditionally people suggest that won't work, but it has done for us here. And then whether you, and then also using in-mail. Then we were looking at other audiences as well. So we've like picked up all of our closed lost ops that we've had and like pushed them into an audience and uploaded them into like LinkedIn, and then promoted to them to see how well they're doing. And we run this for about like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then to see what's working and then double down on the tests that do work. So now we just started one on conversational ads as well. I've obviously taken out the results, things are empty. So sorry about that, just remove those for not too transparent. But what really works for
you measure maybe like
yeah. Well, but then we're looking at then the spend frequency is really important. So we're talking to LinkedIn and they're like to aim between 6 and 10 is really what we're trying to aim towards. But anything above that and you start to lose impact. So then we had way too higher budgets on some retargeting audiences, which are quite small. And then we add in at this point when the team are like looking over these, they add in the changes they want to make for the next sprint and then the actions that they've then taken beforehand, and adjust like spend and in relation to that. So for us, in-mails really works. And something that was always worked well for us is free leads. So sometimes you have everyone who's ready to submit a demo, I find it, and you have people just above who are sort of teetering on the edge. And free leads is our way of lowering that barrier, giving people a chance to test something out for themselves, and to get some free leads and try out Cognism. And I feel like if you can find that sort of spot and that sort of offer, that sort of bottom funnel offer that's not quite a demo, then it works really well for us in like capturing that demand, because often they'll get the free leads, we prove the value in that, and then we move them on through the sales process.
Yeah, and a note on that is it was super unscalable for us when we started that. That was like that when we started 3 years ago. We started this free leads offer, and essentially we offer people 25 of their ICP contacts, and we'll show them the quality of the email and phone data that we can get them on those 25 contacts. And we were like literally having to, because we didn't have resource in other parts of the business, like we would get into our own prospector, Cognism prospector instance, and we would like actually take the list and send those to those people requesting it. And for that reason, we kept the audience super small that we were offering this to. And then we just proved out the success of it. And so we actually now have a whole ops function who run this for us. And it's like super easy for our sales team to manage. But you can start really small. Don't get bogged down in like the scalability of an offer. I think that's just my biggest advice on that, and try and find your lowest friction, what it would be for your business, like that kind of low friction ask that's not quite a demo. And on the same vein, that goes to like us saying we've actually like ungated these tours of our product now, because again, we've got nothing to hide. We feel like we have a great solution. We want to show you so that you want to come in and see how it could apply to your business and how it could actually help you specifically, at which point a demo does make sense. And I think it's just all about that transparency. And once you get past this whole idea of like tricking someone into, kind of spending time with you or your sales rep, and actually just getting them to a point of really wanting to spend time with your sales rep, because they're 100% convinced of that value, like that's a game changer. It's a game changer for the whole funnel.
I think that's true. Like I get so many messages on LinkedIn, like attend a demo and we'll give you like a $50 gift card or something like that. And I just don't know why I would do that. You know, I just think we kind of, as you said, like the whole idea of like the demand gen thing, and it's like people will come to us when they are ready to like have that conversation, and the intent's there, and they think that we can be valuable and help them. So yeah, I'm a big fan of showcasing what we got.
It's an interesting question here about like sharing the technology and transparency with your competitors. So like, I honestly just think this is like such a classic pushback. And if your competitors really want to get a look at your product, they 100% will. And like, there's no way in the world that you'll be able to stop that. Like they'll just come in via an alias, they'll get a friend to look, they'll get a friend to request a demo, they'll do the demo, they'll like record it. There'll be a million and one ways in which they'll be able to do it. By actually doing like what we do when we do the video tours, we show the pieces that we're happy to show. We actually take control of that. We're very transparent in it. And it's like, there is nothing really like there that we're worried about. Like we're also very confident in our product. And yeah, in terms of building something, they may well see something, but then for them to build that out, especially in what we do, you know, the lag time on that is huge. So the competitive advantage is going to be lost as well. I think it's just like losing like all of these things we've been taught and told and kind of indoctrinated into in B2B marketing and kind of B2B in general. We're just trying to like push them aside. And just imagine if you are the solution that's transparent, you're the solution that's not hiding behind any form of friction or form, and all you're doing is continually day after day adding value to your prospects' lives. Like the experience difference alone is a competitive advantage as well.
Yeah, it's just more B2C, isn't it? Which is what we've always, I don't know, I think I've always been like not afraid to do, but like it's just isn't like the B2B way like traditionally. But I think more and more like we're just moving into this like buying experience that's very like B2C, but it is transparent, it's honest, it's like normal, you know.
Frederick, if you want your CMO to talk to me, I'm happy to chat to them, CMO to CMO. We can persuade them. That's the best answer I can give you on that one. So for those who are still gating content, and there is definitely a like good theory behind having partially gated, ungated. We've talked about how we still do some gated content in the mid-market plus. I just wanted Fran to take the floor and talk about like how we do that in mid-market plus and how we're managing to get these like $7 cost per leads, because like that does make all the difference ultimately with your budget and the number of MQLs you're able to generate. So
yeah, sure. So yeah, I did, well, as Alice just mentioned and I mentioned previously, we are gating some of our content. I guess I made that decision, as I said, I was playing it a little bit safe. However, I did, traditionally it's your ebook, right? So you've got like an ebook with thought leadership, hundreds and hundreds of pages. So I did kind of get to a point where I was like, if we are going to gate stuff, let's try and make it super valuable, super actionable, or something that like people actually will consume. So like every so often, like sort of 50 to 100 page ebook, like people don't have time to read that. You know, it's not exactly the most exciting thing to like sort of get your hands on and just like ream through like pages and pages. And also like just not making assumptions as well. So I guess the easiest way to explain it is to tell you the story of how we approached it. So I sat down with the team and said, okay, right, let's think we want to market to enterprise companies, and we want to target like the sales leaders in these enterprise companies. What they're going to want, this came from like, this is what we decided. And we decided this, by the way, it was completely our own assumption. What they're going to want is this like really strategic, high level, value driven, blue sky thinking content. And we don't have that right now. So we need to go away and come back with the best bit of thought leadership ever. So we came back with a playbook, and it was like, I don't know, like how to, I can't remember what it was called, like no stone unturned, like, I don't know, unlock your best sales strategy, something like that. And I put it out there and I was like, this is going to get us loads of leads. We're fine. Honestly, I think it was like 10 days later, we were repping about like $70 cost per lead for like one download. And I was like, oh dear, this is not good. So then I was still convinced. I was like, you know, let's think about the strategy. That's what they're going to want. And I think we kind of had to like stop in our tracks and say, well, we we're saying this is what people want, but we haven't asked any customers. We haven't spoken to the A's who speak to the prospects all the time. We haven't listened to Gong calls, like we have Gong, which is an amazing tool. So we started to do that, and we started gathering information, and we realized that the pain points that these sales leaders have are very similar to the pain points that sales leaders have in SMB companies, in the sense that they have a team, they need them to fill pipeline, they still need to get leads, they still need to call them, they still need to prospect them. And we happen to run some great content on cold calling, and something that I didn't think would necessarily work. So we put it out there, and lo and behold, we're getting $30 cost per lead, we're getting $25 cost per lead. And it's because the content is relevant, but it's actionable. So our cold calling content is, here's a script that you can use. Here's an opener that you can use. Here's some objection handling, like flashcards that you can use. So immediately it was valuable and it was actionable, like versus something that I assumed sales leaders might want, like something very strategic, like something like, I guess, like on their level. I don't know. That's how I was thinking about it. And really, it didn't work. And I look back now and it's pretty obvious why. It's because everybody wants something of value. You want something tangible. Like when I listen to marketing podcasts and read blogs and look at everyone's amazing posts on LinkedIn, I want someone to say, like someone put a post on, was it DGMG? Like about the size of LinkedIn ads, right? That we saw. It was like, use this square size, not the rectangular size, and you'll see a better return. And I was like, okay, we tried it, and lo and behold, we did. So there's a tip for you. But we, it's just stuff like that we want to test, we want to put into practice. So that's kind of what we did. So we kind of said, all right, if we're going to get content, it has to be valuable and it has to be actionable. So that was one problem solved. Second problem, well, it wasn't a problem, but the second thing we were doing was serving ebooks, which were hundreds of pages long. How can we improve this? So what we started to do was think of, we started to call them like content upgrades, right? So how can we provide you with a template that you can actually use to like calculate something, to calculate marketing metrics, or to a checklist which you can share with your team, or like just anything such as that, or like we can deliver a playbook, but let's put it on an interactive page where you can flick between the sections. There's videos on there, which is more interactive. There's links to podcasts that we think that like are going to be really useful. There's little snippets. And as we went on, the more value we added, the more actionable we became, and the more, I would say, like interactive we were with the resources, the cost per lead did start to come down, because it was like people, and I think it's more like the way in which we approached it. So it was like the ads were like, 10 tips for this, or actionable content for that. And that whole sort of repositioning and presenting something that people actually wanted to consume meant that we were just driving more and more leads at much lower cost. So I suppose my advice would be, like, if you're gating content, like think about who you're serving. Don't make assumptions, because I did and it didn't work out. And it's quite natural to do that, but you've got customers, speak to your customer success team who can introduce you to them, listen to calls. We do this like weekly now. Speak to your sales team, and I think you can deliver something that's a lot more valuable than just like this, I don't know, big piece of content that no one's going to read, basically.
I think that's a really good segue into this question, which I can see people engaging with. Like,
yeah,
the answer at the top of the show, but I'm going to go try and answer it better, because obviously didn't do a good job to begin with. So one of the biggest challenges is that we all believe in demand gen principle, but receive pressure in the short-term results. How would you balance the two? And this was us, like, wasn't it? Like, we were all we are crystal guys. We want to do this, but we just like do not know how we're going to get out of this MQL hamster wheel. It's a real thing. So as like, which I don't think I explained before, was, okay, so you're going to, first of all, actually what I did do is I went to my CEO and I said, please, can I just have 5K a month? And obviously for some,
I remember this.
That's a lot more money than it is for others, but I just want to have 5K a month, which is my testing budget. Like, we're going to call it like CMO experiments. And I'm going to run it for 3 months, and I'll come back to you and I'll let you know like what the results were from it. And I just had a hypothesis. I had like what I believed I would be able to achieve from it. And then, quite a small ask in relation to like what our budgets were. So whatever that is for you, potentially look at doing the same. So then we could continue to run all of our normal activity. So we continued to be gated, we continued to be MQL led, but we had this 5K experimental budget every month where we were able to start testing out like the ungating of some of our most successful content and building out some of these audiences that we've been talking about. And actually, we did start to see, in correlation with the increased spend on the ungating and these campaigns running on paid social, on what I'd call like demand generation campaigns, we saw an uptick in inbounds. And literally it was like that line, that curve followed the spend. And so that was all I needed to see at that point. It wasn't like I need to be able to attribute that back to a certain campaign and a specific creative and a specific content type. It was just, I want to see a rough trend. More money in to content where we're pushing it out, ungated, frictionless to our ICP, ends up in more people coming inbound and requesting a demo of Cognism. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing was, once I'd seen that, I was like, okay, there's something here. So what we said was, okay, we can optimize. We had a lot of content campaigns running. Some of them were coming at cost, like when you merge the cost per lead, this is why I talk about splitting the funnel. It's super important because a merged cost per lead was like around $30. That was what we targeted as our break-even cost per lead on content. So all great. But actually, when we split out all the content campaigns, there were some absolute winners where we could generate cost per leads at like $7. We still had frequency room. And then what we could see was, okay, we could just front load all the money into those, take away some of that budget from the rest that were underperforming in relation to the $7 cost per leads and put that into the demand generation activity. So now we'd upped this 5K spend into, something more towards 10K. And again, we saw this jump and the increase, and we were like, okay, there's definitely something here. And at that point, it becomes really easy to put the business case together. And all you need to be able to show in for us, what we need to be able to show in the very early days was the correlation. And then with the split funnel, you can see the difference in the conversion rates. And then your CFO, ultimately, or whoever it might be, the CEO, is going to find it very difficult to argue with you giving back more time to your SDR team to actually do outbound. And so that's an opportunity cost that you're removing by not having to follow up on content leads. At the same time, you bringing in higher quality leads into the business that are converting at a higher rate and being able to bridge those few deals that you were ultimately getting from the content piece anyway with the inbound success that you've generated. So that's the explanation. Have I missed anything there, guys?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it makes sense. I suppose only for us, like for mid-market, I suppose it's like the point to hammer home is the reason it's or mid-market enterprise is the deal cycle's longer. So it's dependent on your deal cycle, like how long, like how quickly, I guess, like you can see the impact. So I think taking it gradually is like, you don't just have to, as you said earlier, like you don't just have to turn the tap off. It's like taking it step by step is absolutely fine. And as you said, as long as you can see that correlation, then I think eventually you will make that, like I'm confident that we will make that full shift into.
Another thing I was going to say is it doesn't all have to be paid. So actually what you can do is you can actually just say, I'm going to invest in organic, and like it's time investment in this way, like what we're doing today. The fact, like all the LinkedIn posting, you could create a really great, and the content you're actually just creating, you could create an amazing organic plan that actually requires no paid activity. The paid activity is super helpful from a distribution perspective, ultimately, because it gets eyeballs on and it helps you build out a retargeting audience. So there is huge value in it. But if you don't have loads of budget for that, just focus on like the organic side. That's in your control and you can invest in it. So that would be another way of looking at it as well. Okay, so I'm really conscious of time, and I think people want to know how to measure this, because ultimately, if you're going to be able to sell this to your stakeholders in the business, then you need to be able to measure it. And we've made progress on it since that just broad correlation stage. So I'm going to let Liam, well, you can't share. Fran's going to share.
I'm going to share.
I'm doing it for me.
Do you send it me?
Yeah, be the middle link.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Right, should be able to do this.
There's so many questions. So what I'm going to do, we're going to get all these questions, aren't we? So we're going to actually answer all these. I'll make sure Don't worry, guys, you're not going to get an SDR cold follow up, but we'll make sure.
What we're going to do is, one of us is going to call you up, going to ask if you want a demo.
We'll make sure we actually follow up with answers to these.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to have to tell me. Next slide, please.
Yes. So some nice fiddled numbers for you, all made up for this. But it starts. I want to say that you just want to start off by measuring the basics, and this is, I suppose, just going on what Alice was saying. How if you've got like, you're looking at your first month when you implement it, like a DG strategy, and then looking at your second month afterwards, and then third, and trying to see that based on, and what we were looking at there is like, based on for the first few months that we were doing this, like budget hasn't changed. But if budget hasn't changed, am I still seeing an uptick in inbound leads? And then how much, and also what your demand generation strategy should be doing is helping those convert further down the funnel as well, as people have more access to your content en masse to consume whenever they want. So then you should start to see as well that not only do your leads increase, but you're having more meetings booked, more meetings attended, more squares and deals. So that's the first bit to it. And we just break it down like this for ourselves. It's like a square for us is like an opportunity at 25.
We said these, like, obviously these aren't real numbers, guys, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I said that beginning. Not real numbers, but you can pretend they are if you want. And then the next slide, please. Then it's the same in like splitting the funnel out. So you want to, we call it inbound paid content. So the inbound is like an organic inbound attributed. So coming in straight into direct demo, paid, a direct demo from a paid source. And then content is what we're really calling out like lead gen. The thing that you need to show is, because one pushback that you'll get is that, so we closed maybe 3 deals from content last month. How are you going to make up? Now you need to make up with this with inbounds and more. So you break that out still over your months, because you're still going to have content leads dripping through as you like move over, but you want to be showing that you're having a marked increase in inbound closed ones. So you're actively making up for those content closed ones. And you actually make ground on this pretty quickly, because of inbound and paid demo requests have much higher conversion rates through the funnel than those content leads do. They're much more likely to close. So for like every one of those, you're obviously going to get one like inbound lead. You're obviously much more likely to get a closed one. So it's important to keep breaking that out to see that you're making that movement.
In our split funnel, it's like we need 20 inbounds for, so it was like 20 leads for 1 deal, something like this, and then 200 content leads for 1 deal. So it's like, that's the difference you're looking at. Also, is this going to cut us off in 7 minutes, just quickly?
It might. Ashley can extend it quickly, I think, if that's the case, but it shouldn't do. I think it keeps rolling. And then, and that's what you want to keep monitoring. And eventually you'll get to the point that, content will be sort of nil, and that you would have made up it all in inbounds. And then the next one.
Next slide.
Mm-hmm.
1 moment. Really playing into your new ego, isn't it? Me
I got someone who does my slides for me as well. It's amazing.
There you go.
And then we're just looking at the inbound velocity and how many inbounds, and that you have to look at paid as well. So assuming some of your paid activity is direct demo on your brand name as well, like on like Google Ads, if you'll be bidding on your brand name and stuff. Like a lot of people who are then Googling your brand name are going to be massively in your part of your demand generation wheel. So that's what we started looking at, is just that velocity coming in and tracking that over time. So actually we slowly starting to make that switch, and then trying to see how we could increasing it and keeping it and moving it upwards, and also increasing that inbound number, particularly over the paid number. Even we want to etch that organic one up as much as possible. And eventually we'll get to a point that we're obviously capturing as much of the relevant demand from paid channels as we can, but the sky's the limit really on the the demand gen side and actually getting people into coming organic. And then the next slide. And then the other thing that you want to be looking at is your sales cycle, because like I said before, like now that your content is open to everyone and you're not just looking for new prospects to download your content and you're happy for your customers, for all like opportunities and everyone to be like consuming all the content you've got, you should start to see that your sales cycle starts to increase as well. Decrease, sorry guys, just realized that wrong way around. Decrease as well, and it should start to move quicker. So you want to track this month on month as well to see what effects you can have on it. And we start to build out specific campaigns to opportunities only, like pushing content that they'll want and the stuff to help move them through that pipeline as well to make that sales cycle speed up as well. And then the next slide. And then when it comes to, so that's like sort of your top line, that's like your core fundamentals, right? And you can see all this from influence.
Might need a whole session just on this slide.
This is a nice one, isn't it?
But then there's also measuring your ads. So normally when you're measuring your ads, it's like when you're on a lead gen, it's quite easy. You're just seeing how many it's cost per lead, number of leads. It's a nice metric to follow. I think that's why everyone got hooked on it. Whereas now you go back and you actually look at what people would have once called vanity metrics are actually really important metrics because they show how well your content is resonating with your ICP. So we like break down, we look at the videos, we look at the video views, cost per view, who's viewed 75% of the video, who's viewed 100% of the video. The whole idea of like short videos at best, like it's not true. If it's a good video, it doesn't matter what length it is, people will watch the whole thing. So you don't have to worry about that. We put loads of videos up. We don't look at view at all. And then when it comes to your static and carousels, we're looking at like engagement rate, which is like looking at how many people have liked it, or reacted to it, commented on it, clicked or done anything with it. And we're trying to see like the ones obviously they're the highest. And then when you get through to the landing page, or if they're coming through to a landing page, then we're looking at like bounce rate, time on page, where they go afterwards. We're starting to put in what would be like the last referral link before they submit a demo as well, so we can see what that last action they took on the website was before they submitted that demo as well. And this all starts to build a picture of what content people are engaging with before they come to you, and therefore where you want to put your money and where you want to put your time and resources. Like, this content's going really well. This is what people are interested in. This is what introduces people to Cognism. This is what they gets them to know about us. And then the next slide. I think this one we can skip because it's the performance ads and we went through it, looking at. And having said that, frequency counts across all of these things as well. I know I mentioned it before, but it's important on your awareness ads as well. And then the where did you find us for that field that we put on our thank you page, and which we just ask people where they found us, and it's an open text box for them to write wherever they like first heard about us or know about us from. And we collect this as just like we call it human attribution, like no attribution from any sort of it's just them, and we bucket it. So you have to do a bit of work. So you take them out and you bucket them into like things that matter to you. I think it's important not to limit people with a pick list though, because you can get some really specific results from people just telling you, could people mention like, the podcast name, episode.
Podcast Liam was starring in.
Yeah, exactly. Demandism, Liam,
one of your episodes.
And then I take that and ask for more money. So we've broken this down out into pie chart here, and this is what ours is looking like at the moment. So social media channels is like the massive part of it, but that's where we put most of our money. So that's great to see. But word of mouth is massive, which is amazing, and that also means that we're stirring up conversation in whichever way happens. And then organic search still showing its importance, and then we've got paid ads, partners, and then other just for this circumstance. But you could, when you're looking at your own data, you can really break it down, and it can really help you alongside your normal tracking attribution with UTMs and campaign responses to decide where your budget goes.
Yeah, I think that's Alexander's question there. So the two ways are UTM links, and then we use campaigns in Salesforce, and so campaign responses is how we can then track attribution, and we have a last touch attribution model across the whole business. So that's kind of, we could deep dive a lot of that probably another time. Amazing. So that is on the time, and that's our first episode of Demandism. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it was helpful. We're learning as we go. We want to make sure this is useful for you guys. So yeah, please just feedback. Let us know what you want to see more of, less of, and we'll make sure the next one is not too long in the future. And yeah, we'll try and deep dive some more topics. So probably try and get a poll going on that or something on our LinkedIn channels to keep an eye out, and probably Liam and Fran and I will share personally as well. So follow us on LinkedIn, and yeah, we'll try and follow up all these questions, because they're amazing questions and some are super detailed. So I want to make sure we give you like proper answers. But thank you for joining us and bearing with us through a few tech issues. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys again.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
I actually don't know how to exit.